There are now over 30 million senior drivers in the USA. Most of them are safe drivers. As we grow older, our ability is no longer what it was.
Pull over, please. Pull over.
The change is so gradual, we often don't notice it, but close calls and minor accidents occur. This film explores that time of life when one needs to start the conversation on when it's time to consider not driving before someone gets hurt.
I have no intentions of going into a nursing home. I'm going to have to be able to drive until the day before I drop dead. That's absolutely necessary, especially as a photographer, a landscape photographer. I can't substitute it in any other way.
It's very hard for me to visualize a day that I can't drive, but I have to be realistic and say that it's something that I have to mentally prepare myself for. I don't think I'll ever go blind. That's not my concern. But my concern is a diminishing vision where I can't legally get a license. And that is a big concern of mine. And I don't quite know how I'm going to deal with it. Like Beverly says, well, I'll come down and drive you. But that's almost worse. I mean, she's a wonderful woman, but a driver, forget it.
My brother-in-law, I'm the one that taught me how to drive. And when I told him that I thought I was old enough now to get a car, he said, oh, I know just the guy. And his friend was selling cars. You know what the lead car is in the funeral? It's the big sedan where the family gets in there. It holds about 8 people. And the guy said, I can let you have that car for $50. Well, for me, that sounded like a fabulous deal.
Oh my gosh, I can tell you this, that my mother had a Studebaker convertible with a rumble seat.
We had a rumble seat, and I loved the rumble seat.
Henry Ford's Model T Ford cost $700, and that was more than many people made in a whole year.
The first car I ever saw was a Model T Ford, and my daddy used to crank it every morning.
Well, and then I decided to go to California, and my dad bought me the first MG that wasn't still the old boxy car. This was the 1600 model. And I drove that car to California, and I drove it fast through those canyons out in LA. You know, that was a lot of fun.
I had a TR4. I had driven little Triumphs, the sports cars, up until I bought this Datsun for a heavy accident. And I've never had an accident in the sports cars.
Hey, didn't Woody Guthrie write a song
About cars?
about cars for his kids? Yeah, you remember that one? You want to sing that for us?
Let's go riding in the car. 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 I'm gonna let you blow the horn. I'm gonna let you blow the horn. I'm gonna let you blow the horn. Let's go riding in the car. Ooh-rah, ooh-rah, ooh-rah. Yes, I suppose I should make a new verse. I'm getting too old for the car. I'm getting too old for the car. Too old for the car.
Let's go riding in Pete's car. There you go.
I sat in the rumble seat with my older brother when we took the car to go to the beach in the summer, and I learned how to sing in harmony with my older brother. I was not infatuated by cars, though. hitchhiking was much more common in the 30s. I spent the entire, well, not the entire year, but most of 1940 hitchhiking or riding freight trains. Woody Guthrie showed me how to do it. Just outside of town, where the freight train is starting to pick up speed, and you run alongside it, and I throw my banjo into the empty boxcar, and then I'd climb into it myself. Now, I admit, sometimes I misjudged. It was going a little too fast. I had a couple narrow escapes, but I was young and strong and managed to survive. In those days, it was very common for people to ride freight trains. Now it's not very common. I will be 90 next May. I think probably within a year or two or three, I'll probably decide to quit driving. I'll be thinking about something, then I'll suddenly look at the road and say, where am I? And I've been driving for several miles automatically, but not really looking at all the possibilities. The stoplights, the small roads, the other cars that may be wanting to enter in front of me.
People think that when we've gotten our license, we've gotten it for life, but it's not an age issue, it's a skill issue. And that sometimes as we're aging, we may adapt certain things like our driving patterns, the times of day, and the types of roads that we take.
Night driving is very bad, especially rain at night. It's almost impossible for me to drive. I will not drive at night with the rain. As an older driver, I hate to hear people blowing the horn at me to speed it up. I only go 40 to 50 miles an hour. That's my limit. And if you want to pass me, I'll let you pass me, but don't blow the horn at me. And they give you dirty looks and everything else. I won't go fast for anybody. You want to pass me, go ahead and pass me.
There's often a change in our reaction times that we really can't compensate for. And if that ever starts to get to the point that it is putting yourself at risk, that's when we really need to have the conversation with the senior about really looking at, is it time to stop driving?
Changes in the driving environment that are night and day from what they used to be.
I certainly feel that senior drivers should be checked if there's any concern about their ability to be safe.
Elderly people, they think they're great drivers, but I was sitting next to a person over 85 and we only drove for like 5 minutes, and I was praying all the way, hoping that nothing, and then a left turn came up and it was really...
Apparently there are a lot of seniors that plan their routes on the basis of making no left turns, just right turns only. It seems to be a problem in judging the speed of oncoming vehicles from the left.
There are so many changes in, in the older driver physically. Cars are different. There are more roads, more highways, more signs, smaller print. The roads are paved. There are more distractions. The aggressive driving is really an issue for many. There are a lot of issues that people really have to get brought up to speed on, and it's not uncommon for a senior to say, hey, I took my driving test in the 1950s and I have to have another test.
I don't want to be tested. I don't want someone else to have that right over me.
One part of me says, realistically, logically, yes, they should be tested. And there's a point where older drivers should stop if they're either physically or mentally incapable of driving. But on the other hand, in a selfish sense, I would say, well, I don't want it to happen as long as I'm the one that has to be tested, and obviously that's selfish.
I think as long as you can, as your eyesight is in pretty good shape and your reflexes are pretty good, even though when you get around about 85 and 90, the handwriting really is on the wall.
I know that the day that somebody says they're going to take my license away, if somebody should make that decision other than myself, you will hear me in the next town, because it will be horrendous.
I dread it happening to me, but I'm just facing the reality of the situation.
Our office does not include mandatory testing. For New York State, all of our testing and our reevaluation of currently licensed drivers is age neutral. The issue of mandatory retesting is certainly a topic that comes up in dealing with any groups advocating on behalf of the elderly. Our paramount obligation is to ensure public safety. But at the same time, we recognize that the specter of a government attempting to impact something as critical as their ability to drive and to be mobile is something that we need to handle very sensitively.
I was driving really when I was about 14 and 15 years old, because I used to steal my mother's car when she went to work and back it out the yard and drive it up and down the driveway. Till she caught me one day and it was all over then. Yeah, I'm still driving. Yeah, you think I'm gonna walk up that hill? Yeah, I'm still driving. I was a motorcycle cop. That was when Bill Murray became chief of police. I still got my old drag bike. I got the old Harley Davidson. The Sportster. Was I good? I was lucky more than I was anything else. I was lucky more than anything else. I had a good mechanic, and I had a pretty good bike. You gotta be concerned about the other guy more than you do yourself. I do things a lot on instinct. I can sense something when it's not right. That has kept me out of some very bad accidents. I don't drink, and I don't smoke, so my reflexes are fairly well, you know. And I don't believe in a whole lot of speed unless I'm out in the open. I don't like to fly around turns and try to beat somebody. It ain't worth the money to me, because your hospital bills supersede anything you make, you know. I don't see anybody who criticizes me doing any better than me and not doing it good. The only thing I worry about is the car breaking down. I'm gonna be there. Yeah, I'm a pretty good driver. I think I'm a good driver. Oh yeah, I think about it a lot, because I don't think I can walk that hill no more.
I absolutely have to have control over my transportation. Okay? So if I could afford a chauffeur, that would be nice. I can't, okay? So I'm going to be doing it. And if I'm not going to be doing it, I will be in some kind of hell. And I think that's true for most older people. I think about my cousin as she was getting older. Eventually, when she didn't drive, she just stayed in bed. She did live a long time after that, but without any kind of real interaction with life.
The question of what is the time for someone to give up their license, to give up their independence due to their age. If someone does reach that point, what are we prepared as a society to offer in place of?
Okay, now I got it. Thank you.
And you cannot strip away someone's ability to live independently, with health, and then expect them to function just as is. We have to have transportation systems available to them and a strong foundation in that network to support those needs and not make them feel like they have lost any ability to live well.
Takeout. He's got some takeout food he's taking there. My job is to be here for the on-site meals and to make sure that we've got someone to cook and we've got volunteers to help prepare the meals and serve the meals. And I keep all the data, how many meals we're serving here, on-site, off-site, any donations we get for our meals here, because we don't charge for meals. We say we have a suggested donation of $3, but we just put out a basket. If anybody wants to contribute, they may, but if people don't have the money, they don't have to pay. I also coordinate the Meals on Wheels in our area, and so if anybody wants to register for Meals on Wheels, I register them and send it into Central Vermont Council on Aging. And some people can't get out and do shopping, or this is the only meals that they would have.
You're looking at people that have been here for generations, that are very used to doing for themselves, that have a strong sense of purpose in their life and pride. And for them to lose the ability to get to a doctor's appointment or to the grocery store or to pick up just their daily needs, that is a large loss to them. They are not used to asking for help. They don't like handouts, and they believe that they can do for themselves. And in many cases they can, but there are times when assistance is needed.
It's not just the food that they get. It's the sociability for people that are coming here, or if somebody's bringing Meals on Wheels to their home, they're getting a contact with somebody outside their home. And some of these people have only seen maybe a family member once every week or two, have very few friends. And so to have somebody come 3 times a week and deliver a meal on wheel, have the people here that come to the center, this may be the only time of the week they're getting out and doing anything. If we didn't have this transportation, and if we didn't have these meals here at the center, I think that these elderly people would really be having a lot rougher time.
It's very difficult for people to make that decision about giving up a car when they reach somewhere in the 80s and above, because up until that time, that car is what kept you in society, kept you active with people. You went where you wanted to go, when you wanted to do it, and there was no problem. I started in photography when I was about 16 years old. I spent most of my life working for one employer, that was Sylvania. And at Sylvania, because of my photographic background, everything that came up that had to do in the slightest way with photography, talk to Al Gordon about it. One of the biggest things I did, I became the expert in taking what we call big pictures, where you would have to use maybe 2,000-3,000 flash bulbs. It was pictures of things that normally would be hard to take because the lighting wasn't available. So I did fairly well. I stopped driving on my own here because I realized that my reflexes has slowed down tremendously. And also, being in the photographic business, I could almost tell you to an inch how far away we were from a different area. And then I realized that when I had to make a left turn, for instance, I had to now start judging the distance that the car was coming at me from. And I realized that I was taking too long to think, how far away is that car from me? I used to be able to go like this and say, oh, that's only about a half, like 70 feet away or something like that, but not anymore. As you reach a point where you can't drive the car anymore, you now have to depend on others to help you out. If you're lucky, like I am, to have a daughter who looks after you to see that you're doing the right thing, she comes and sees me once a week, takes me out to eat, and things like that. That eases the problem a little bit because at least you know there's somebody there out there still looking after you and thinking about you. So it's very important.
I don't know what the statistics are, okay? And I would be interested in taking a look at it. which group, in terms of age groups, have the worst records? There's a whole body of people who should not be driving, okay? And they're not necessarily older people.
No, at any age,
While older drivers statistically are safer than younger drivers when it comes to the number of accidents, they are more likely to be injured in that accident.
What scares me the most is some kid who drives through this development here, okay, at 50 and 60 miles an hour, and I'm coming around to come into my driveway, and he misses me by about this much, okay? I watch out for him now. I know the car and I know the kid. But the worst thing that happens with an older person is that they slow me up.
In 2003, an 85-year-old man in California killed 10 people when he accidentally stepped on the accelerator instead of the brake.
I knew that I was tired on the highways that I traveled on, so that I was careful at those times. And anytime I would blink a little bit, I would stop on a ramp and rest up a little.
The light turned red while I was on my way to it, so I put my brake on. But the car didn't stop. It was just kept going exactly the same.
As I came to the end of the trip, I was coming down a small curvy country road called Mountain Road, approaching my house, which was maybe 5 minutes away. At this point, my eyes glazed over, and the next thing I knew, I was on the side of the road and I had smashed into a pole.
Well, my eyes, they were always marginal, but I always had a legal driving license. And there's a deterioration in my vision that I have to deal with and mentally, psychologically prepare myself for a day that I may not be able to drive.
Okay.
I don't foresee that in the near future, but these are realities that I have to face, and I don't look forward to it, but I do have to be realistic about it. I started to make the left turn into the BJ's parking lot, and all I remember, huge grill, the Dodge pickup trucks with those huge grills, loomed up in front of me, and I heard this bang, terrible bang, and it was all quiet. Of course, my physical wounds will heal. I mean, this is nothing that is going to be permanent, but mentally it has scarred me. I'm not that anxious to drive anymore, although I know by necessity I have to.
As I go on, I feel that control is slowly being eroded.
Away,
both physically, for all mentally.
Sure.
There's so many threads.
I love where I am. I love my friends, and I love my life. But all of a sudden, it put doubts that I never had before. That will this continue? You think that, well, this is going to go on forever, but the reality is it doesn't.
We have to support our elderly citizens. They have the right to live in a respectful and healthy way, and if they do not, never mind the humanity of it, but the economic repercussion, I think, would be tremendous. And we have to give some good attention to that.
It seems to me that what we're going to have to do as a country is to start looking at how we can better know our neighbors and how we can assist each other, especially with things like if I'm going to the grocery store, I could stop by a neighbor's home and say, what might I do for you, or would you like to accompany me to the grocery store?
So then the question is, what is the community willing to do to substitute for me driving? And I think eventually it's going to boil down to that. Whether it be community services, they have a little bus that takes people shopping, but all of a sudden when I hear this, I start to feel old. And it's something I reject.
To really reach out to individuals that are in need of some transportation, you have to be respectful of the life that they have led. And not be intrusive, and not go in with the intention of changing their lives or introducing them to something that they might not be ready for yet. And you also have to be respectful of them being your elder. And listen. Listen to what their concerns are, listen to what their fears are, and also what their contributions in life have been so far, and develop a friendship and a dialogue and a level of trust, and then move forward and offer a hand just to help them get through and to be able to continue what they're doing and what they do well. And give them a ride. If they need a ride, that's not too much to ask. After 86 or 90 years of life, they just want to ride to the grocery store. Give them a ride.